Jarrod Fletcher. They call him Jarrod Left Jab. Yes, his alias is Left Jab, just like Floyd Mayweather is Money Mayweather and Pac-Man is Pacquiao. So, 18-1 with 10 KOs. Very good amateur career, beating the guys like Adonis Stevenson, Sergey Kovalev. But on this level, the pro level, 18-1 with 10 KOs. His last loss was a knockout loss to a Billy Joe Saunders. If you don't know him, he's a UK domestic fighter. You know his name. He's getting pretty good. I like him, even though in his last fight he won by knockout, but he was a little sluggish. But long story short, let's get back to the fight. So you got Jarrod Fletcher, who at one point in time was supposed to fight Gennady Golovkin for the real WBA title. They're fighting for the WBA World title. You know, it's like 3 different WBA titles, and it's just, you know, it's out of control. So Gennady Golovkin is the WBA champion. These guys are fighting for a shot, at Gennady Golovkin. Now, like I said, at one point in time, Jarrod Fletcher was supposed to fight Golovkin, but then Daniel Gill ended up fighting Golovkin. So now Fletcher is in a very tough fight with a Daniel Jacobs. Let's talk about Daniel Jacobs. 27-1 with 24 knockouts. His last knockout, well, his only loss, his most notable loss, is against a guy by the name of Dmitry Pirog. Now, go back and watch that fight. It's on YouTube. Danny Jacobs is somewhat of a pressure fighter. Well, he is. He's a pressure fighter that can't go up against pressure fighters, if you get what I'm saying. So, when he had Pirog just constantly coming at him, you know, straight for him, he didn't know how to adjust till one point in the 5th round, he got cracked so hard with a right hook, and he just went down, you know, and then like slumped over, then laid back. The referee's looking down at him, you know, like 1, 2, 3, and then he said, no, that's it. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's like Jacob's soul came back down into his body. He was like, yo, ref, it's 5, I'm good. But then he still wasn't trying to get out. So we all know they call him the Golden Child or the Miracle because of his he beat his bout with cancer. You know, God bless that. He's won, I believe it's like 6 straight fights. But if you look at the level of competition, if you look at this guy, he hasn't been past the 5th round in quite some time. So I asked myself the question, okay, we got a Daniel Jacobs who's a very dangerous fighter. Oh, by the way, he weighed in at 159.5, and Jarrod Fletcher 159 and a quarter. Like I said, they're fighting for one of those WBA titles, but it's not the real title. Golovkin got the real title, and basically this is somewhat of a #1 contenders type situation going on. So you got Golovkin, I mean, you got Jacobs, who's a pressure fighter, going up against a guy who can really box and move and really has solid fundamentals. But this is his first time over in the States. You know, this is Daniel Jacobs' backyard. For example, the fight's in Brooklyn, Barclays. He's living in Brooklyn, but from Brownsville. So there's a lot going against Jacobs. I mean, there's a lot going against Fletcher, and Fletcher's only chance to win is he has to keep moving, and he has to use that amateur experience. You know, he has to make it an ugly fight. You know, and he can't allow Dan Jacobs to get close, because Dan Jacobs is the type of fighter is that once he gets close to you, you know, once he gets close to you, he starts firing off. So the pace has got to be dictated. Fletcher's defense has got to shine, which I'm not quite sure of. You know, looking at the way he got stopped by Billy Joe Saunders, all it takes for him is just one of those times for him to go take a break on the ropes, and then Dan Jacobs is right there ripping his body apart, and then, you know, one of them gets through the guard, he goes down. So what you should look for is Jarrod Fletcher on the ropes. He's not going to get knocked out in the middle of the ring. If you see him starting to languish on the ropes, and then you know they'll take a shot and then go like, come on, you know, but you really know they hurt. If you see him doing that, then it's Dan Jacobs. But if Fletcher comes out, you know, from round 1 and he survives till after round 5, he has the better amateur background, and you know, and also, you know, he's got those 18 wins. He may have a better chance because he's used to going to the distance. You know, he may be able to close it out on the cards, but then once again, Dan Jacobs has the advantage when it comes to that. But if you don't know, please subscribe. I cover every single major fight live TstreeT Controversy. Show's called TstreeT Controversy Live. And basically, you know, I cover the weigh-ins. As soon as they go off, I do a video. I cover the fight. As soon as it goes off, do a video. HBO 24/7. As soon as it goes off, do a video. Showtime All Access goes off, do a video. Such and such and such and such. So I'm gonna tell you who I'm going for. I'm going for Dan Jacobs. I'm going for Dan Jacobs by knockout. You know, both of these fighters have been knocked out before. You know, so I'm looking at the fact that Dan Jacobs was knocked out by a very credible, good fighter who is still undefeated, by the way, 20-0 with 15 knockouts, but hasn't fought since 2012, Dmitry Parag. That's a rematch I would love to see Danny Jacobs go after, because that's unfinished business right there. He's still undefeated, you know, but, you know, he's injured or something's going on with him. You know, I'm looking at the fact of looking at his loss, his only loss, and then looking at Fletcher's only loss, and then matching up the competition of who they lost to. And, you know, I gotta go with Dan Jacobs over Jarrod Fletcher. I got to, you know, and I gotta go with it by knockout, not decision. And if it does go to a decision, I imagine he's going to be a broken and beat up man, or the referee is probably Steve Smolder. We don't know, and they just allow it to go on after a ruthless, you know, the ruthless barbaric beating. But, you know, it's a shame, because people are probably thinking I'm not going to give Jarrod Fletcher a chance. I am giving him a chance. He's got to move, and he's got to move a whole lot, and he's got to make it through round 5. If he can do that, he has a chance. You know, but that's going to depend on if Dan Jacobs punches himself out and tires. You know, and then the boxing ability of Jarrod Fletcher, you know, takes over, because Jarrod Fletcher is the better boxer. Don't get me wrong. The better fighter is Danny Jacobs. Simple as that. Simple as that. So, TstreeT Controversy. Please subscribe. TstreeT Controversy Live.